Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Saturdays in Stores podcast brought to you right here on the Crossroad Media Network. My name is Kanaye. Today we have a really good win to talk about and a little unfortunate loss that UConn suffered last night at St. John's at home at Gamble Pavilion. I know last week I talked about how I wanted to try to put out a Marquette reaction video maybe last Sunday or at some point during the week. I really wanted to, but I just didn't get around to doing it. It was a pretty busy week for me. So I apologize for that. I think both these games are worth having their own episode, but that's just not how it ended up working out. But yeah, so big win for UConn on the road at Marquette, Pfizer Forum. I saw that was, I believe, the most people they've ever had at a game at Pfizer Forum for Marquette basketball. So I mean, really big crowd. I mean, they showed up. They got loud at certain points of the game. But yeah, that was a really important win for them. And yeah, I mean, I thought that was something that hopefully was kind of the marker of the turning point in the season where this team was going to be able to get back to being more of a Final Four ceiling type of team that just has that type of potential. You feel comfortable in believing in that. Last night against St. John's, I was there at Gamble Pavilion. Electric atmospheres, $2 beer night, Gamble Pavilion atmosphere there never lets you down. It was great, just crowd environment, start to finish. I apologize if my voice is a little off today. It got loud at that game. It's hard, it's tough to talk to other people when it's just so loud. So yeah, so I apologize. My voice sounds a little off this episode, but yeah, I mean, it's tough because you see UConn go up to the lead that they did. I want to say 26-12 at, early in the first half. I want to say the first 4 minutes maybe got up to that point, and then for them to just blow that and just really struggle in the second half offensively and. It's tough. And you really thought that this, with McNeeley coming back, was going to be the kind of like the turning point in the year where, okay, UConn's starting to really make their stride and figure things out. But yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about that in both these games. So I'm going to break down what I was able to take away. But before we get into that, if you like this podcast or any of the other content you see on this channel, whether it's NBA, college basketball, or anything else we might be covering, please subscribe, like the videos, comment. We love seeing what you guys have to say about what it is in the videos we are doing. And please just tell other people about it. Tell your friends. It all helps with pushing this content out to more people and helping us with YouTube's algorithm. So without wasting any more time, let's talk first about the Marquette game. So UConn won 77-69 at Pfizer Forum. Really huge win. They needed that. The resume is definitely not looking great as of right now in terms of their out of conference wins, with Gonzaga falling out of the pool, Baylor not looking great at all, and Texas is not good at all this year. Marquette is also actually not looking very great as of recent, but still, they were a top 10 team in the country at the time of this game, number 9. And we're the 25th, which I kind of didn't really understand how we were ranked going into that week. But again, we'll take it. It's better to be ranked than unranked. So, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway from this game is solo ball. Even in the first half of that St. John's game, solo ball is becoming one of the stars in the sport. In my eyes, he really is. He's looked like the best shooter in college basketball. And really the last month, I'd say. I mean, I know Kobe Bryant is still in that conversation just with the efficiency, but that he shoots the ball with. But solo ball, the amount of just timely threes he hit in this Marquette game was insane. It really was. I think it could go down being as solo ball's signature game, just going on the road in a kind of a must-win game for UConn. Just needing a win that's going to bolster the resume in the Big East that's really weak this year. Coming off a DePaul win at home, which got really shaky at times, where UConn went down 14 in the first half. And I think for them to turn around and have the performance they did, and just for solo ball to come out and play the way he did, I mean, again, all 7 of his field goals were threes, but just he hit them when they needed them. There were points in the second half where Marquette went on a run, and then Solo comes down and hits just an absolutely backbreaking three. If you're a Golden Eagle fan, um, I mean, it's just like the shot is just so pure. Every time he lets the ball go, it looks like it's going in, and he just him being able to get those looks off and make some of the tough shots, the contested shots off the dribble. Um, there was a point where he stepped back on the left wing, was able to knock down a three, or he hit one from way far out, nearly a logo three, and just I mean, he's becoming one of the better shooters in recent UConn memory. I mean, even up there with the likes of, I mean, it's crazy to say with the amount of great shooters we've had in the program the last few years, but he's up there with the likes of, I think, Jordan Hawkins, Cam Spencer, Joey Calcaterra, and just it's, I mean, AK, just some of the great shooters we've had at UConn over this Dan Hurley era. It's just incredible to see just the way he's played. He's been a lot better defensively. Last night against St. John's, there were moments where he got switched onto Kadari Richmond or Simeon Wilcher, and I wouldn't say he did a great job, but I mean, he was able to force a miss. I think a lot of that is attributed to St. John just not being a very good shooting team. But I mean, in this Marquette game, I think UConn played some of their best defense. I think it might have been the best defensive performance this season. Just they looked completely locked in on the defensive end, just with their switches, the rotations. They forced Cam Jones to take a lot of tough shots that he didn't want to take. And I think that was something that was going to have to be important going into that game. I mean, I really did not know how UConn was going to defend Cam Jones in that basketball game, but they did an exceptional job. I give a lot of credit to Hassan Diarra, who really was at probably 60% in this game. I know he was a game time decision with his knee injury that he suffered, I guess against DePaul must have been. But yeah, he looked 60%. I probably shouldn't have played, but hey, I mean, he fought, he battled through it. So a lot of credit goes to Haas on that. I think another person I want to shout out in this game was Jalen Stewart. Just a hot start he got off to going hitting his first three threes. I mean, that was really important. I think that really fueled UConn early in that basketball game, and I think maybe they don't go out to that big lead that they had if Jalen Stewart doesn't start off hot the way he did. Just to talk a little bit about the lead, they got up to 22-point lead. I want to say was really close to this end of the first half, and I think a lot of this goes back to how this team really, really does lack that killer instinct. This comes up in the St. John's game as well. But to go up on the road 22 points, to have been shooting the ball as well as they had been in that first half, and then at certain points it becomes a 6-point game. I want to say maybe even got down to 4 at one point. It's just you can't do that. It's the Big East. These teams play so physical and so tough. You saw that with St. John's last night, how they just wouldn't quit. But you can't do that. That's just really the difference between last year's team and this year's team. Of course, the defense this year is on a completely new level of bad compared to last year. I mean, last year's defense was really, really good when Donovan Kling was playing. This year, it has not been at all. It doesn't matter who's available, who's playing. They're just not a good defensive team. So I think that's one obvious difference from last year's team to this year's. And then just this year, there's really no one on this team that kind of has that I don't want to say dog mentality, but this team is lacking energy and fire. There is no killer instinct. Hurley's talked about it. You know, I've mentioned it previously. A lot of other people have as well. They're lacking guys like I think they really miss Cam Spencer in the sense of him. I mean, UConn could go up 30 points and Cam is still playing out there screaming, shouting, playing like it's the NBA Finals, like a game 7. And I think McNeeley does that at certain points. I mean, last night against St. John's when I think he hit his second straight three in a row. And going back on defense, he kind of waves his arms up, trying to get the crowd into it a little bit. I mean, so I think that was good. But really, outside of McNeeley, you really don't see that from anyone else on this basketball team. There's a lot of nice guys, I think, on the team, which is just not a slight to any of them. It's a great thing, but then when it comes time to play, especially in Big East basketball, you need that fire, you need that energy. And I think next year coming in, um, I think some of those guys have a little bit of that to them. The incoming freshman, I know Eric Ribey seems to definitely have some of that in him. So that's going to be something fun to look forward to in the future. But yeah, that right as it stands right now, this team lacks a lot of that fire. And I, I gotta say, this Marquette game was definitely an anomaly of a game. For UConn to have turned it over 25 times, and I mean, you tell me that, I think Marquette wins a 30-point game going in. Like, if you tell me that before I watched the game that UConn would turn the ball over 25 times, I'm thinking no way in hell that UConn wins this basketball game. But just the way they defended Marquette, I mean, they defended them really, really well. They didn't let them get shots that they wanted to get through their action sets. And another thing was Marquette did not shoot well at all from the line. They went 12 for 22, not good at all. Um, and I mean, they really, honestly, it's a weird basketball game. It really is. For UConn to have turned the ball over that much and for them to still come out on top, it's strange. But that's definitely a concern, the turnovers, which again becomes apparent in the St. John's game last night as well. But I mean, yeah, it was just a really, really good win. Solo Ball is a star. I think that's the biggest takeaway from that game. Just for him to, again, the performance, it's probably one of the more memorable ones that I've seen um, from a UConn player over the last few years, and it's one that I'm definitely going to go back and over time and continue to watch the highlights from that game, because I mean it was just incredible to see him nail down three after three when UConn really needed it, when Marquette was going on their mini runs here and there. So really, just great game from Solo Ball. Really big win for UConn in that game. But yeah, let's talk about the St. John's game a little bit. So it was played at Gamble Pavilion. It was uh, actually Ben Gordon night. They inducted Ben Gordon into the Huskies of Honor. So congrats to Ben Gordon, well-deserved honor, 2004 national champ. Really nice halftime ceremony for him with guys like Emeka Okafor came out, some of his other teammates from that '04 team. Believe Calhoun was there as well. So that was really nice to see. Again, congrats to Ben Gordon. Uh, really nice ceremony they did for him. So yeah, let's talk about the actual game. UConn lost 68-62. This was definitely a game that I knew was probably going to end up being in the 60s, just with how St. John's brand of play. They're really physical. They don't shoot the ball well. They play really, really tough defense. They play with no quit on that side of the ball, and they force turnovers. That's how they make up for their lack of shooting. They get additional possessions, which makes up for the scoring volume that you'd see if they were a good shooting team. But hey, St. John's has been in a lot of situations this year where they've been in tough battles where they go down double digits. It's happened a lot this year. They went down double digits to Xavier, and I forget that I'm losing it off the top of my head, but except which games it were. It was that they went down double digits and ended up storming back. But last night, another case, they went down 26-12. I want to say in the first 4 minutes of that basketball game. This was definitely a game that I felt UConn was really going to have to get out to a hot start, just to kind of throw that punch at St. John's, maybe try to catch them off guard a little bit. And they did. I really thought after seeing that start that UConn was going to be able to go out and win this basketball game. I just, with the energy being that high, as high as it was in the building, when UConn went on that early run, Solo Ball started 3 for 3 from the 3-point line, and Jalen Stewart, really hot start again. Had 9 points really early on, was knocking down big shots, some deep threes, and I thought that was going to be enough to kind of fuel the fire to drive UConn throughout the rest of this game. They had a lineup that I really, really liked, and I felt it worked really well with Solo Ball kind of running the point, Jalen Stewart in there, I believe Liam McNeeley, Terrace Reed, and I want to say, forgetting exactly who else was on the floor at the time. Might have been AK, but regardless, that was a really good lineup, and it kind of confused me why Dan Hurley decided to go away from that lineup, especially in the second half when we couldn't get anything offensively. That confused me a lot. Additionally, I understand Samson Johnson is kind of the defined starter, but I would have liked to see Terrace Reed get the start in this game. Um, and I know he did play more of the minutes. That was kind of attributed to Samson getting in foul trouble, but I mean, this was a matchup that was a Terrace Reed game, which is considering how physical and big St. John's is. That's a game where you need Terrace Reed on the floor, and he played well. I'm looking right now at the box score. He ended with 15 rebounds, scored 12 points. Really good game from him. Um, and it, it- I just, I just think that again, it kind of comes back to the killer instinct. Um, for them just to not be able to put teams away, continue to blow them out, just put teams to bed early. They don't have that this year. They really don't. Um, I think they were kind of in a tough position with Liam McNeeley, where he was on a limits restriction, being his first game back. He came off the bench last night. He played really well, I think, in my opinion. Couldn't really get the 3-point shot to fall in that first half. He was able to knock down two in the second. But just yeah, he's obviously rusty, 4 for 15. I don't think he moved as well as he did before the injury, which is to be expected. Hopefully, he gets back to that point soon. But he did have some good takes to the hoop. He was able to draw a lot of fouls. He went to the line, shot 10 free throws. So that was nice to see him being able to get involved that way. He had a double double, which is nice to see. And I definitely think it's important for UConn to get back their best defensive rebounder in Lee McNeeley. Not like Terrace Reed, just in terms of who plays the most. Liam McNeely is really important in the terms of their rebounding. UConn is not a great rebounding team without Liam, so definitely important getting him back. It was nice to see him play last night. Um, but I think really a lot of UConn struggles is attributed to turnovers. They turn the ball over 21 times. I want to say it is. Let me just verify that really fast. Um, yeah, I mean UConn turned the ball over 22 times. That's unacceptable. You're not going to win a basketball game again, outside of Marquette. That was a really, really strange game. But you're not going to win a basketball game if you turn the ball over that many times and expect to win. But hey, that's St. John's brand of basketball. They force turnovers, they get those extra possessions, and that press that Patino runs, a lot of that is designed not to necessarily force turnovers that way, but to drain clock, to burn shot clock. Because if you're able to burn a good amount of time until Haas is able to get past half court, then UConn, who already struggles to run their sets smoothly, is kind of in scramble mode and trying to be able to get anything off of their actions, just with how tightly St. John's is playing you defensively, as well as just how much time is left on the shot clock. You kind of had to get the shot off quick or figure something out, and then that came up several times in the second half where they were able to make it so Haas had a little bit of trouble getting past half court just with their press. They had trouble inbounding the ball as well, just trying to break the press too, which they need to figure that out. Their press breaks this year have not been very good, so they need to definitely come up with something. Luke Murray, Kimani Young, that whole staff, and I'm sure they definitely will try to figure something out soon. Just considering Creighton's coming up, so. But yeah, that press obviously hurts, and then um, once they actually get past half court, they struggle to run their sets, and they forced Liam McNeely and Hassan to take some tough shots at the end of the clock that just didn't look good, and obviously didn't go in. Yeah, it's definitely tough when you're playing a team as good defensively as St. John's. And yeah, just to talk a little bit more about what St. John's did defensively, I think they weren't necessarily ready going into this game for, I think, the offensive burst we got from Solo and Jay Stu. I think that completely changed in the second half, and even in the later stretches of the first half, where they essentially face guard Solo Ball. They were saying that Solo Ball was not going to win UConn this basketball game. They ran him off the screens. They hedged really hard on closeouts. They didn't. They just blew up ball screen actions and DHOs, and they blew up a lot of UConn's actions. And I mean, I think that's what you're going to start to see a lot more from teams in the Big East going forward. Just, I think it's been nationally recognized that Solo Ball is one of the best shooters in the sport. And I think it's going to be a lot harder for him to get a lot of the looks that he's gotten this year, which I think you look for Solo Ball to recognize this and try to do more of being able to attack some of these closeouts or being able to take guys off the dribble a little bit. I've talked a lot about how this team really has no one who can go and get their own shot, which I think hurt them in this game as well. Just in those late clock scenarios in the shot clock where UConn's not getting anything offensively off their actions, their sets, their staggers, and everything they run. And then they really don't have a guy. I mean, I think Liam kind of was a guy, but again, it's tough to put that on him. In his first game back from his ankle injury, playing as good of a defensive team as St. John's is, they banked on Mahaney being able to do that, and he really hasn't done it this year. He's had flashes, but it's not been consistent at all. And I think Solo needs to kind of try to become that. He's by far the best shooter on this team. And we've seen at certain points of the year, he's able to kind of get into the mid-range and elevate, hit those short jumpers. And he needs to do more to attack closes, I think, and go to the basket. He did that last night. He was able to have some nice takes to the hoop in transition. And off, I believe, one closeout where Marquette guy was not Marquette, St. John's was coming for him on the right wing, and he was able to use a ball fake and get into the lane. So that was good to see, and I definitely want to see him do it more, just because I think this team needs that dimension of having a guy who can do more than just shoot and do more than score off of what he's getting from UConn's actions. That's primarily how most of the guys on the team score, off of whatever they're getting from sets ran for them or just whatever, because there's so many options to have off a lot of UConn sets. But yeah, I definitely would like to see Solo do a little bit more in terms of that. I think Jalen Stewart definitely has the potential to be able to do something like that as well. And it's kind of unfortunate. I think Jalen Stewart has played really, really well lately, and I think he's probably going to be going to the bench pretty soon once Liam is fully healthy, which is kind of tough to see just with how well Stewie's played lately. It sucks. Definitely to play as well as he has as of late and then have to go back to the bench. Just because, Liam, who probably is the team's best player, is back and healthy. But kind of, I have heard people talk about maybe Caravan goes to the bench and you have Stewie start. I don't think that's realistic. I understand Alex Caravan has played pretty poorly as of recent. He just hasn't been hitting his 3-pointer. He hasn't been hitting from three, and it's tough. I still want to say that the ankle injury he suffered against Creighton, which he continued to play the rest of the game. He hasn't missed a game, but I want to say that's still lingering and kind of bothering him. It's been a while since then, so I don't know how much fluidity there is to that point that I have anymore. I do still believe that Liam not starting plays a role in Alex Caravan's struggles. I talked about it last week, how with Liam being out and not kind of in that starting lineup, Alex Caravan now has more athletic wings, natural threes guarding him, as opposed to guys who play power forward. Being that Alex plays the 4 position, he's matched up with whoever's playing the 4 on the other team, and he's kind of able to take advantage a little bit. He's kind of able to take advantage of that a little bit. Just how normally 4s in college basketball aren't the most athletic, or they don't move their feet as well, and it's kind of tough for them to keep up with AK when he's running off of screens and hedges and pin downs and the staggers that UConn runs for him. He's also able to take those guys off the dribble a little bit more than what we've seen over the last few days, games, just because, again, he has more athletic guys playing on him now. And I think maybe that's benefited Jay Stu, with Jay Stu kind of attracting a lot of the attention from the 4s defensively now, in terms of assignment-wise. And maybe that's why he's been playing well as of late, and he's been able to hit his shots. And I think good for Jay Stu, but I think once Liam is back and fully healthy and in the starting lineup, I think that's going to benefit AK a lot. And it's tough because I think this is a guy who definitely has first round talent. Um, and I think his recent play maybe has kind of tanked that a little bit. But this is definitely a guy who's, yeah, his ceiling isn't as high as a lot of other players that are going to be in this draft class, but his floor is a lot higher than a lot of these other players entering it. He's one of the best winners in the history of the sport, and he's a guy he's tough. I mean, he rolled his ankle in that Korean game, played the rest of the game. I understand they lost, and he hasn't played very well since. But he's one of the best winners we've seen in college basketball, and I legitimately believe that UConn doesn't win the last two national championships without AK. And I hope he turns it around. Shooters got to shoot. He's going to get out of this slump eventually, and yeah, I just say keep shooting. It's going to fall eventually. But I will say at certain points, I think he needs to realize, okay, he doesn't have that night. He needs to look to pass the ball a little bit more, not force some of these jump shots. But yeah, just in terms of the other takeaways I had from the St. John's game, I think they left a lot of points at the line. There was definitely a lot of missed free throws in this basketball game that makes, I think, the outcome completely different had UConn hit them. You got to make free throws. Turnovers were, again, probably the biggest issue in this basketball game. They need to break the press more effectively, and then they need to make better passes. There were a lot of inadvertent passes in this game. There were also a lot of drops. The one specifically I remember was when Aiden Mahaney was on the floor, who really wasn't a factor in either Marquette or the St. John's game. It's unfortunate to see his confidence really doesn't seem to be there yet. He looks like he's thinking too much on the floor. There was a point last night where he kind of had a open look it would have been a deep three, but it was an open look that he's capable of hitting. But he kind of hesitated and didn't pull it. I think I would have liked to see him take that shot. But there was a point, going back to what I was just trying to say, there was a point where he was able to get into the lane, drive to the hoop on the left side, and he had a pretty nice pass to Terrace Reed. Terrace Reed drops it. He can't catch it and goes out of bounds. Terrace and Sampson need to do a lot better in terms of being able to catch the basketball at certain points in the lane. Another Terrace Reed blunder I think that was really, really detrimental to this team last night was when he was able to get the ball. He was running in transition. I believe Solo, actually, they threw a deep pass to Solo trying to break the press. And it was a tough catch. Solo made it in the deep corner. And obviously he was the only one down there, so he's kind of waiting for his other guys to get down there. He sees Terrace. He throws it over to Terrace, who's up on the right wing, and he drives into the hoop. He's able to kind of track that double team. Solo's defender kind of comes over for help on Terrace Reed with whoever it was that was in the paint. And that left Solo Ball wide open in the corner. And it was a questionable call, but Terrace Reed goes in and gets called for the charge. I mean, he just bulldozed the guy pretty much. I don't know if the St. John's defender had his feet set. It could have been a block, but they call it a charge. Regardless, that was a complete wrong play from Terrace Reed. You had Solo Ball wide open in the corner. You pass it back to him. I like my chance of Solo Ball making that shot. And in a game where they were completely running Solo off of his screens when UConn was trying to get him set shots, you need to take every open look opportunity for Solo Ball that you can get. I mean, that's what's going to prove to be the difference in the game. And I felt like that foul and just blunder by Terrace Reed was not great at all and definitely hurt UConn a lot in this basketball game. Hassan Yar was not great as well. 6 turnovers. He needs to be better. I know for a while after Maui, he looked like one of the better facilitating point guards in the nation. Since that kind of stretch, he hasn't really been great. Really, since Liam went down, I think that's when Hassan has kind of started to struggle a little bit. He's definitely had good moments, like in that Providence game where he scored 22, but he needs to be better. This team definitely is starting to look like they kind of have a point guard problem once again. I believe deep down that Hassan is going to figure it out and right in the ship, but it's the way it looks right now. It is looking a little rough. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have to take away from the St. John's game. It's really unfortunate. I think this game had it been a win, would have really changed the trajectory of the season. I mean, of course, I still firmly believe we make the tournament, but definitely hurts for our chance of getting a higher seed. You want to get that East region, considering it's Providence to Newark to San Antonio, which is where the Final Four is. But I mean, the way it looks right now, we're probably going to end up maybe in the Southwest region. Could end up having to play Auburn in the second round, which of course is not ideal. But yeah, they need to come out and win this next stretch of games. It's going to be really important. You really needed to win, I think, at home against St. John, just considering that I'm coming up fairly soon. They're going up to MSG to play St. John's there at the Garden, so that'll of course be a tough game. Next game I believe is Tuesday night against Creighton in Omaha. Of course, UConn has never won in Omaha at Creighton at Chi-Health Center before. Creighton's kind of been Dan Hurley's kryptonite. Seems to be the only team they can't figure out. They lost at home to Creighton just a few weeks back at Gamble Pavilion, which is really crazy to think. 2 straight Gamble losses. That's something I would have never expected going into the season. But hey, I mean, that's college basketball for you. And yeah, but I mean, of course, I think that McNeeley game, I don't want to call it a fluke. He's definitely capable of being that type of player consistently. But I mean, you got to come out hot in that basketball, and you got to really play tough on the perimeter. I mean, Ashworth, you can't let him get the threes he got in that game. You can't let McNeeley score the way he did against you at Gamble. And I mean, Ryan Kalkbrenner didn't play well in that game, but again, you got to play tough on him. I think Terrace Reed would probably be good in terms of being able to defend him. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, again, it's looking more and more like this is probably a bridge year for this program, which I think you can't be too frustrated with. I understand you have the chance of going for history with 3 in a row, but just the roster makeup, I think, I talked about it going into the year. I didn't love it, but I didn't think it was going to pose as many problems as it has. But I mean, I think that's just going to change how Hurley recruits in the future. He's going to prioritize defense. He wants bigger guards for sure, like he had last year and the year before. But yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of it is we're starting to see the coming along of the next group of UConn guys, UConn stars with Solo, who, again, the way he's playing, he might not be in STORRS very much longer. But if you get Solo back for his junior year, then that's great. If you have Solo Ball, Jay Stu, Gene Ross, who hopefully continues to improve and come along, become that 3-and-D guy that I think deep down most people believe he can get to. But yeah, and then you have a great freshman class coming in next year. Terrace Reed returns, and I think he has a chance to be really good next season. Ahmad Noel year 2, which I have a lot of optimism around Ahmad Noel. I'm really excited for what he has a chance to be in the next 2-3 years at UConn. And of course, I mean, hopefully Mahaney. I mean, I'm sure it's probably up in the air if he sticks around in STORRS, but if he comes back, then maybe he has a chance to be a little bit better than what we've seen from him this year. But yeah, and then of course maybe hit the portal for just one guy. But yeah, I think that pretty much takes care of everything I have for this episode today. Again, please, if you like this podcast or any of the other content on this channel, please tell other people about it. It really helps with the algorithm on YouTube. We love seeing what you guys have to say in the comments, so please put any of your takes you have in the comment section below. Please like the video, subscribe. Until the next episode, I will see you all next time.